Msafara Kadhimiti TV. Chimbe Tete, the best ahead of the rest.
Okay, there's some number there. Okay, sawa. Na nimekuwa bari shiki. Asante sana mwenyekiti, nipa fursa hii mbele ya wenzangu kunena sauti. I may not be right, but I stand to be corrected. I beg to differ with the motion that we are holding right now. I don't support whether the impeachment of Gashagua was right, or I don't support whether the impeachment of Gashagua was wrong. No. Here is my question. Okay, hold on. Get me right. I say yes, members, I'm neutral. All of us here, we were here in Kenya, where Gashagua's accounts was frozen. Gashagua was a criminal. And how comes he was cleared by the IBC to be the deputy president of Kenya? And right now is the same government that is saying Gashagua is wrong.
But they are proof.
Where are we as Kenyans? We should stop this nonsense we are doing and tell Ruto and his company in the name of Kenyans and the parliamentarians to leave and give us power. As per the constitution of Kenya, we know that the power of the country lies in the hands of the people. And here in Kenya, we have no powers as Kenyans, my friend. Ruto is taking each and everything in government. He has taken over the parliament, he has taken over the senate, he has taken over the judiciary. Where are we heading to as Kenyans?
Now you are not heading silent. We are heading in the wrong way. You are right.
My friend, then last, I beg to move out, slightly out of the motion. The current syllabus of our country, CBC, I'm a parent.
Yes.
And I really feel bitter. My sons and my daughters have been taken as the specimens in the laboratory.
Sure.
Where the current syllabus of Kenya is taking our kids, those kids cannot compete anywhere in the world, my friend.
Yeah,
my friend, as we are speaking right now, there's a student in the interior part of Kenya who cannot even operate a simple mobile phone. There's a student in remote Kenya who have never seen this line.
Point of order. No, Mwalimu, we are not young man, yes, that is CBC. One of the loopholes that was there, how can you destroy somebody's life? The entire primary life of 11 years, you destroy in 3 days. How?
Yeah. I'm here to answer you, my friend.
Number 2, how do you destroy somebody's life in secondary school in a period of 4 years in 21 days? Is it fair?
It's not fair, but I'm here to answer you. I'm here to answer you.
Yes, answer you.
As the 844 syllabus,
yes.
I saw our teachers who have been taken to colleges to train for 3 years.
Yes.
Our high school teachers were training for 4 years. Yes. Our lawyers were training for 7 years.
Yes.
Kindly answer to me, confirm to me, is there NCBC teacher was trained for more than a year?
Yes. No.
No.
Only 3 months. No.
Sawa. Sovereign power belongs to us. Sama namna gani? And that power shall be exercised in accordance with the constitution. Don't take promulgated constitution. Is ndio? Tunaendelea sawa sawa. Wewe useme kidogo. Pamoja. Wale wako na katiba mnaweza soma kidogo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Wacha pia mimi niongelee maneno kuhusu Gashagua. Gashagua kitu ya kwanza alichukoroga mwenyewe. Tukubaliana hapa. Ile sahi kiti Gashagua wanataka dukurudisha kwa ofisi ili resign. Na hiyo kitu angefanya kitambo. Gashagua hakujua maneno itafika mahali penye imefika. Gashagua amekaa on a point of denial. Alikuwa anasema anaenda kupigana. Wacha twende tusukumane Senate. Sasa tumefikishana kotini. Sasa as we are talking, hakuna ofisi ya Deputy President. Hakuna mfanyakazi pale mwenye anafanya kazi. So ile kitu Gashagua mimi nimesikia amepigia simu lawyer mmoja, deni jaji mmoja, amkubali tu arudi ofisi then I resign. Because the Kenyan hatufai tuendelee kuongea maneno ya Gashagua. Maneno ya Gashagua imeisha. Kama unafikiria maneno ya Gashagua itarudi tena, then maneno ya Gashagua imeisha. Gashagua hatarudi ofisi. I'm telling you. Gashagua hatarudi ofisi. What we are supposed to do as Kenyan? What we are supposed to do as Kenyan? I know you like heckling.
Point of information. Can we give him time to express himself? Then later on you will give him time to rebut.
Yes, you'll give him time to rebut.
I'll give you time for rebuttal, sir.
As Kenyan, as Kenyan, we need to know how we are going to salvage what has happened during the impeachment. Hii maneno ya kulialia maneno ya Gashagua tuangalie tutaziba namna gani hiyo ufa yenye tumeona ya kwamba watu wachache wana impeach mtu mwenye amechaguliwa na watu karibu milioni 7. Hiyo ndio swali tunataka tujiulize. This constitution we have to look on it. Tuangalie ndani ya constitution hata kama ni come up with a bill which I've had my friend here in Bunge are preparing to come up with a bill whereby after the impeachment of deputy president or the speaker of two houses irudi sasa kwa wananchi wapige kura. Hakuna haja kwenda wapi? Kwenda nini Senate? Yes. You will cure this one. Yes. Lakini kama nyinyi mnakuja hapa mnasema ya kwamba ati Gashagua sijui nini. Hii kitu imepita na event. We need to salvage it. Another thing that we need to do as Kenyan, tuangalie hii maneno kwa sababu kesho utasikia impeachment ya speaker either wa Senate or wa parliament. Mtaanza kulia hapa ati ya kwamba mna impeach na sisi tuko hapa. Let us now construct our constitution. Tuingize zile vipengele yenye tunataka ifanye maana itusaidie. Kama ni president anaimpeachiwa, iishie wapi? Kwa nini kwa parliament? Then irudi kwetu. Ikisharudi kwetu through IBC tuamue kama tunataka aende ama asiende. Lakini kama mliachia watu wachache wenye wanaweza hongwa, then mtaendelea kupiga kelele muda mrefu. Ya pili, Mr. Speaker, tunataka tuangalie maneno ya CDF. Dina tuhusu sana. Tunataka elected seats zitolewe CDF ikuje as a special kwa nini? Kwa Ministry of Education, so that watoto wetu wafaida mna gani wasome bure. Pesa mingi inapotea. Nyinyi sasa hapo mko kwa Gashagua. Hao nao wako kwa kuongeza siku. Nimeona hapa mbunge akilalamika kuhusu kuongeza siku. Na yeye anataka kuwa mbunge. Sasa swali ni, akiwa mbunge atakaa miaka 5 ama atakubali hiyo miaka 6? Hata kama wataongeza miaka 10, responsibility ni nyinyi. Chagua ule mtu mwenye atakufanyia kazi. Wewe unapinga hapo kuhusu miaka 7. Miaka 5 hii umekosa kuchagua ule mtu anakufanyia kazi, ulilandika. Sasa waweka miaka 2, bado utachagua mtu mwenye hakufanyii kazi. Sasa nani mbaya? Si ni wewe? Lazima tuambiane ukweli. Tunataka kama hata wanaongeza miaka 10, but wewe kama mpigaji kura, vile wewe unapenda 500, 100, 200, chagua tu ule mwenye atakuja kufanya namna gani kufanya zenye wanafanya saa hii. Tunafaa tuende referendum. Tuangalie hakuna mtu ataimpichiwa huko. Turudishwe hapa. Tuone kwamba wananchi wanataka nini. Waachane maneno ya public participation. Waache public participation hii irudishe in form of voting kupitia kwa IBC. Sasa mngekuwa mnalia hivyo. Ya mwisho, Mr. Speaker, nikimalizia. Umepata ya kwamba baada ya kutoa hii CDF kwa centralized, ikishakuwa wananchi wetu watasaidika. Wakifaidika hata kuja kupiga hapa makelele. Hii makelele haisaidii. Sisi kama bunge, you can come up with a bill na ukusanye 1 million signatures na iende mahali. Sasa kukuja kama we are able kukuja hapa na kupiga kelele ya kwamba Gashagua asiende, Gashagua arudi, na Gashagua sasa amefukuzwa. Gashagua amefukuzwa. Tuelewane. Utapiga kelele hapa lakini Gashagua amefukuzwa. Huyo mtu atakani kwa serikali. Gashagua hajasoma 48 law of power. Na hiyo ndio imemnyonga. Gashagua amekanyaga red line na nimemalizia hapo.
Thank you very much.
Few glitches that we never cleared. We never came up with the costing of the cost of this constitution, the current constitution we have. Because if we did come across the costing of it, we would have reduced those representation. We would have reduced our counties. We would have reduced even those appointments. And to assess, surely, do we need those nomination members of parliament? Do we need a bloated factions so that we can address the ghost workers mechanism, even the menace? That is a debate worth talking as we address our economic challenges moving forward without focusing on retrogressive political persuasions. Let me focus on having a Kenyan whereby economy will be driven. We had a vision. That vision, how do we drive our vision with those myriad challenges of the bloated debt and the bloated costs and the ghost workers of even our county and the current government? I do believe, I rest my case. I trust you will be there. Please debate openly. I persuade you, may you sober up. May you sober up. Even if you are agency, may you sober up. May you think positively, progressively for our nation and how best during this debate can we steer our country. The Asian tigers, why they are ahead of us? They are ahead of us because some of those mechanisms they took, they did the best and they aped Mau Mau, freedom fighters, mechanism, values and etiquettes.
So today, when I spoke about the referendum in the morning, I posted on my TikTok and on X. I got feedback from Kenyans on X and on TikTok saying that Eric Omondi has already proposed a referendum. Then I took time to go through Eric Omondi's referendum and his proposals. I was not aware of Eric Omondi's referendum when I addressed the referendum I need us to have as a country. Eric Omondi's referendum addresses what Mzee said. It addresses the number of counties we have as a country. Eric Omondi says we have 47 counties and we should reduce that to possibly 7. You remember we had 8 provinces. Eric Omondi proposes we could possibly go back to the provinces we had now as counties, then do away with the 47 counties. Then Eric Omondi also proposes a reduction in the number of course, when you reduce the counties, you will reduce the governors and senators and so on. So he also talks about a reduction. What is this? I think a reduction of the salaries for those salaried MPs and senators and so on. But that will work. It may work. It may also not work. I am a big supporter of devolution. I would not want us to go back to the 8 provinces, because some people feel that devolution has brought too much corruption. That we devolved government, with devolving government we also devolved corruption. That is what some people feel. That ufisadi ilishuka na magovernors, ikatoka huko juu kwa national government ikashuka huku chini. But then I would want to challenge you and ask you one question, just one. If we reduce the number of counties from 47 to 8, ufisadi itaisha? Will corruption come to an end? Reducing the number of counties from 47 to 8 will not solve the problem of corruption. Eric Omondi would be on point if he was addressing the overpayment of senators and MPs and why we are so burdened as Kenyans. Hiyo mambo ya kupunguza counties, I do not support that. I have nothing against Eric Omondi, but I don't think that is going to solve corruption. And I don't think that is going to help us and steer us in the right direction. Yes, devolution devolved corruption, but yes, devolution also devolved services. Services were brought closer to the people through devolution. The 47 counties have made governance easier and representation easier. Yes, you may say we are overrepresented as a country. I understand that. But then this representation works to our favor. If your MCS, your MPs and your senators did their representation, oversight and legislation how it is supposed to be done constitutionally, you would see wonders in this country. The problem is them, not the representation. The problem is not the 47 counties. The problem is us as a society, because we produce those leaders. We are corrupt and they are also corrupt. We are tribal as a society and our leaders are tribal too. That will not solve our problems of corruption and tribalism, and will not solve our and representation or over-representation is not entirely the issue. If those leaders did their representation and oversight and legislation work how they are supposed to do, it is my opinion that we would be better as a country. It is my opinion we would be better as a country. Yes, I understand we are overrepresented, but then can we talk about the salaries of these people? Hiyo mshahara wanalipwa ni mingi. Ni sawa, tuko represented kila mahali, tuko na MCA, tuko na MP, tuko na senator, tuko na nani. Si wapunguzwe mshahara kwanza. Genuinely, MP aache kupewa 900,000, si apewa hata 450, si anaweza fanya kazi na hiyo. Na huwa wanakatai maneno because they feel wako na mortgages na wako na loans. Sasa tufanye hivi, kuanzia 2027 mshahara ya senator, ya governor na MP ishuke. If you go to other countries, the salaries of these people iko chini sana. Ukienda US, watu hata hawataki kukua governor na MP huko. Watu wanalipwa pesa bure. Governor alipwa kama 200,000. Watu hawataki kuwa governor. Kuja Kenya, governor alipwa 960,000. 1 million, 1.1 na allowances. Everybody wants to be a governor. Alafu governor amepewa pesa. Hizo pesa wanaiba tu. MP wako amepewa CDF anaiba. By the way, I think Kenya is the only country in the world, if I am wrong please correct me, that has pegged the CDF, the Constituency Development Fund, with the MP's roles. Kazi ya MP ni legislation, representation na oversight. Mambo ya CDF walipewa na Kibaki. Na Kibaki akipeana CDF kwa MPs, alikuwa na feel pesa inabaki kwa national government, haishuki hapa chini. Kibaki was among the people who brilliantly conceived the idea of devolution, kwamba pesa inakaa huko juu haishuki chini. Akasema wacha tutoe huku tupe MP. Na CDF huwa inapingwa sababu haiko kwa constitution, it is unconstitutional. Haikuwa iwekwa kwa sheria, sio sababu CDF ni mbaya. So the CDF we have today inafaa kukua hata pesa ya devolution. So we should scrap that CDF. That is my other proposal in the referendum we should work towards. Scrap that CDF. Mbunge hafai kukua na CDF ya kufanyia nini? Si governor ameleta devolution, si governor amepewa pesa. Sasa mbona pesa ingine mmeweka kwa mbunge? Kama tushapata devolution, mbunge anakaa na pesa ya nini? Which development is that MP going to bring yenye governor hata leta? Sababu hii CDF wanaiba sana. Na sisemi hivyo kusema ati the governors are better. Hata hao governors ni wezi. Shida ya Kenya haitamalizwa na kupunguza counties. Hata tukipunguza mishahara, shida ya wizi haitaisha. In fact, wataiba the more. That is why in this referendum we should tackle the issue of corruption finitely to the end. Hii mambo ya corruption tunafaa tumalizane nayo. Kunafaa kukuwa na punishment moja kali sana. So in our referendum, things we should give priority. 1, the appointive powers of the president. 2, the independence of the commissions we have in Kenya. The Police Service Commission is not independent. It is controlled by the executive. Ruto anaambia hawa jamaa endeni muangalia hawa vijana huko wanaandamana kwa street, make sure you control them. Man, it should not be like that. The Inspector General should not be taking orders from the executive, because that is an independent commission. It is a police service commission. The same way the IBC is an independent commission. But if the president appoints the chairperson of IBC, how will he not control the IBC? We need to talk about the independence of the commissions we have in Kenya. The EACC commission is not independent. The office of the DPP and the DCI are not independent. They are politically used by the executive to settle political scores, and it is something we should not take for granted. It is something we should not normalize as Kenyans, that today the EACC, the DPP or the DCI may decide to withdraw cases that are of public interest. Juzi DPP alitaka withdraw kesi ya Devani, tumeibiwa 6.7 billion shillings na kesi wanataka kutoa. Kesi ya John Waluke walitoa. We need to talk about the independence of these commissions and how we can tackle that, and how we as Kenyans can oversight these commissions. Wamekuwa wakituchezea mchezo mwingi sana. So we need to talk about the appointive powers of the president, the independence of the commissions. We need to talk about the term limits, and by talking about the term limits, we need to reduce the term limits. We've suffered enough as Kenyans. We cannot continue suffering. US wako na presidential term limit ya miaka 4 years. Sisi kwa nini tukue na miaka 5 tena wanataka kupeleka 7? Sisi miaka hata turudishe 3. Kwa miaka 3 mtu amemaliza mambo yake ameenda nyumbani. Miaka ingine 3 tumeleta mwingine. Hata kwa MPs na kwa senators, si kwa president peke yake. Miaka 3 hao watu watafanya kazi, I will assure you. Hawa jamaa wanaonaga 5 years is too much time. So they decide mwaka ya kwanza wizi, mwaka ya pili wizi, mwaka ya 3 kuanza kufika ground kufanya miradi kidogo kidogo, mwaka ya 4 kuanza kukampeni, mwaka ya 5 kuchaguana. Ni nini tumefanyiwa? Tumefanyiwa kazi mwaka 1.5 peke yake in the 5 years. If we reduce these years to 3 years, I am telling you, you will see magic in this country. Mbunge hana time, president hana time ya wizi, akona time ya kudeliver for Kenyans. So mimi naona tupunguze hizi term limits. Tufanye hiyo, tukue na a way of oversighting the independence of the commissions we have, na pia tupunguze appointive powers za president, tupunguze mishahara za hawa watu, na pia naona to tackle mambo ya corruption into finality. The punishment that will be meted on a corrupt public officer should be tantamount to the punishment that is given and accorded to a treasonous criminal.
Okay, basically, and to me as my last word, many would see it negatively, many would misinterpret it. We did have a solution, but this was Mau Mau Governing Council's resolution that was debated and taken a point forward. Which forward? We had talked about representation. So through the BBI, they were talking about equal representation. 1 man, 1 vote. On resources, they were talking of 1 man, 1 shilling. That was one. On equal representation, they were saying, and we still say, and we uphold that, when we say 1 man, 1 vote, 1 man, 1 vote, that creates the proper way and the proper definition of surely the need to elect our representative. And that one can stop gerrymandering. 2, it can stop unequal system or mechanism of resource distribution. The other thing we talked about, even in the BBI mechanism, was on areas of education. Let our children be equally remunerated, even distribution of those resources of education, so that when you talk about 10,000 students who have done the exam and they have qualified, we do not talk about from this region or from this region. All who qualify get equal representation, and also not only equal representation but also equal resources distributed among the beneficiaries without discrimination. Finally, I think the revisiting of the BBI during the debate is also debatable. during that debate, during the referendum. It will be among, we do believe it will be among issues raised from the floor of the House by that time. It will be debated by Kenyans and come up with ample, genuine resolutions that will be able to steer our country forward. And there we are, united we stand, and we shall make it.
My closing remarks. Punguza Mizigo initiative by Kuro Court was a masterclass referendum. But Uhuru and Raila did not let that referendum see the light of day because they thought that a Kuru Court would overshadow them politically if his referendum went through. And that is what happens in this country. Brilliant proposals are watered down because you are not politically correct. So they brought to us a BBI. The BBI had some proposals that made sense to the entire country. But they watered down the Punguza Mizigo initiative because they thought a Kuru Court was going to floor them politically if his referendum went through. Because there is nothing that was wrong with Punguza Mizigo. Absolutely. And I am proposing in the new referendum we should start discussing as Gen Zs. We should go back to the Punguza Mizigo referendum. Look at what was good in that referendum. Look at what was good in that BBI.
I beg to excuse myself. I trust the debate will be open during the referendum. More proposals, more issues, better way. Bring you a better way for the better Kenya, and we move forward. United we stand. I still believe we'll be able to make our Kenya the Kenya we want. May the voice of reason, may the power and the aspirations of our founding fathers be upheld to nurture a country with national values. May they be upheld, even though we lack manners and morals in even implementing our constitutional mechanisms. I trust this time round things will take shape. God bless you.
Asante sana mzee wa Momao. So I was saying, we need to go back to the Punguza Mizigo initiative and to the BBI referendum. The BBI initiative. Let's cross-examine both of them. What was good here? What was good here? Then bring in our new ideas, and among them the issues I have listed. Let's coalesce these things together. Let's sit down and strategize and think of how to write down and pen down a masterclass referendum, a masterclass initiative, popular initiative, and Article 258, if I'm not wrong, that will capture the hearts of every Kenyan and that will capture the interest of every Kenyan. Let us have a referendum that will shape this country and that will shape the law of the land and that will favor Kenyans from today going forward. Let us think of ways on how to liberate ourselves from the current political class. And let us not be intimidated by anyone. Tusiuziwe uoga, tusiambiwe referendum iwezi pita. Do not listen to the naysayers. We can make this happen. Because we as the Gen Z movement have the goodwill of the people, and we can push for the political goodwill. Like we pushed for that goodwill on June 25th. Now that finance bill was rejected. Na ilianguka. Simuliona ilianguka. We can push for the political goodwill. This will not be misunderstood for a political thing, because this is not a political thing. This is a popular people's initiative. This is a popular initiative. Koti haiwezi rule iseme hii tumekataa sababu it is not a popular initiative. This has not been proposed by a politician. It has not been proposed by anyone in government. It has been proposed by myself and other Gen Zs and other generations all across the country who feel we need a referendum that is pro-people, for the betterment of this country. We have the goodwill of the courts, we have the goodwill of the Kenyan public, and we will push for the goodwill of the political elite. Let us push for a referendum. Let us bring those ideas together. Let us work together harmoniously to draft a referendum that will liberate us and liberate the generations to come. As I have told you, and I will reiterate here, the current legislators you have no interest whatsoever in drafting laws that will favor the common mwananchi. You've already seen the bills they are bringing in parliament. You saw the Magbins bill. You saw the horticultural bill by Sabina Chege. You saw that livestock bill. And you saw the finance bill. And you are going to see so many other nonsensical bills that are geared and intended to hurt the public, to colonize the public and to put us into servitude and slavery. Reject these bills, reject these legislators. Let us make that law for ourselves. Let us join hands to work towards the law that we want, the law that will give us a better.
Safara Gadhimiti TV. Chimbe Tete. The best ahead of the rest.